the Truth, Money, and Freedom podcast.
Welcome to Truth, Money, and Freedom. Today is Friday, the 25th of September, 2020. Hey, gang, I want to start out this video, and I'm going to make this as quick as I can. I'll even talk fast. How do you guys like? Am I bearable when I talk faster? The latest video I put out, which was 2 days ago, Wednesday, I just want to talk about the comments because actually the comments were actually quite good, and there's a few points I think that got lost in the argument. I didn't expand enough on a few things, so and that's my fault. And but you guys had some great comments, so I want to give you guys a shout out. First to Green-Eyed Flower. Green-Eyed Flower says, "Thank you. I'm really feeling the craziness, and I'm trying to prep for myself and much, much more insanity about to come. Up here in Canada, with a K, our fearless leader announced they will prolong the emergency benefits until next summer. Yikes." Yep, I'll tell you what, Green-Eyed Flower, we're talking about universal basic income coming to the West, and it'll be a systemic problem throughout the West. This is, like I said, these are the things they have left. These are the tools they have left to try and keep their power. And so I suspect this is coming too. Okay, ZDB. A History of Central Banking and the Enslavement of Mankind, must read, and that link I'm going to talk about in just a minute, so I'll come back to ZDB. Ninja Master, hey man, been a long time. I do want to hear more about your crypto views and what you're mining. Absolutely, Ninja. And I'll tell you what, I will do that sooner than later, and I will do a separate video by myself, and then I'll do a video with Chaos Craig, who is kind of our crypto guru. And in fact, my mining rig would not be up and running now, it's certainly not as efficiently as it is, without Craig's help. So we'll get into that, and we'll talk about that soon. I know a lot of people on this channel think badly of cryptos, but if I could explain my position on crypto, my point of view, my critical thinking process, the way I'm hedging precious metals, I think a lot of people would probably understand better, and I have not done that because I know a lot of people are very vocal about how much they hate crypto on this. And Jimmy D, and shout out to Jimmy D, he is not just a follower of Truth, Money, and Freedom on YouTube, he is also a personal friend in real life, and a real good one. Jimmy says, "I'd have to argue the not voting thing, TC. I'll vote simply in an attempt to preserve the Second Amendment. As you know, no, I don't think Trump is a great Second Amendment supporter, but Biden and his ilk, I think they're out to destroy the Second." That's a good point, Jimmy D. And that's my fault for not talking, or at least expanding on the point I made about the Supreme Court. It really doesn't matter who we have in office. If it's Biden or Trump, the Supreme Court is the one we have to worry about. And so I see the Supreme Court as full of people that are horribly compromised. The death of Scalia, I talked about this yesterday, was really a huge blow to the Second Amendment if you think about it. Other stuff is coming to destroy the Second Amendment on the federal level. Now, that's why I've talked about this. We've talked about this, Jimmy. That's why the Second Amendment Preservation Act in the state of Missouri is so incredibly important, is because we know they're going to kill the Second Amendment at the federal level as soon as they can. We're going through a financial collapse. They do not want people running around with guns during a financial collapse. So it doesn't matter who's in office, they're coming for the guns. And I accept that. And I want the states to start saying no and asserting their 10th Amendment rights. So I get what you're saying, buddy, and I strongly think that the federal government, it doesn't matter who's in control, they're coming for guns regardless, even if it's Trump. So that's kind of my feeling on that. And hey, man, I love you. Thank you for the comment. David Burden, also a friend of mine in real life. Jimmy D and David Burden also live in Missouri, by the way. Spot on, brother. You nailed it. I could have been listening to a recording of myself trying to explain the situation. Good to see you and know that you and yours are well. Thank you very much, David, and I hope you guys are doing good over there, too. Nevada Cario, who has his own YouTube channel, by the way. He talks about his thoughts on his YouTube channel. I agree. I don't have faith anymore. That's right, Nevada Cario. My faith is in Jesus Christ and God, the creator of the universe. And I do have faith, a little bit of faith in my family. I'll tell you what, though, I have more faith in God than I do in my family. Mia Nicholson, I'm single. I kept this on here because the replies are funny. David Burden says, no surprise there. As far as I know, all bots are single. And Dan Did Not says, don't forget to wash your hands. So I thought that was funny, so I left it up there. This is a spam one. And Sojourner, also in Missouri, in Douglas County. P.S. I got to vote for my sheriff. He's a good guy. Chris Degassi, Douglas County, Missouri. I am sorry if I have mangled the guy who's running for sheriff's last name. So, but David summed up what I forgot. This is my fault. David said, yes, local is the only place you can make a difference. At times, I still vote in local matters, up to the state level, but won't participate in the federal dog and pony show. It's all corrupt and rigged. That's my thoughts exactly. Dave and I are of like mind on this matter. We understand that it really doesn't matter who's in the White House anymore. They are transient officials controlled by special interest groups. It's purely that simple. So being controlled by Soros or the big banks? Being controlled by the military-industrial complex or the military-pharmaceutical complex? You know, being controlled by energy, concerns like big oil companies. These are the people who actually run the politicians and the Supreme Court. So these are things that I think that a lot of people still don't fully comprehend at this point. But at any rate, David, I agree with you, and Sojourner, I agree with you too. I do vote on on the local level. I'm just not going to vote on the federal side. So I wasn't clear enough in my last video. So at any rate, I want to thank you guys for the comments. One more from Sojourner. I have been following the Dollar Vigilante, Jeff Berwick. I follow him too as much as I can. I haven't watched a video of his in months, but I do like Jeff Berwick. He talks about Monero cryptocurrency, supposed to be safer than Bitcoin relating to privacy. I would like to know more about cryptos like wallets and such. Thanks for posting. Sojourner, your wish is my command. I will actually do a video about this. And yes, I am into Monero. I do hold Monero. And it is safer and more private than Bitcoin. That is correct. So without further ado, I'm going to go back to ZDW, A History of Central Banking and the Enslavement of Mankind. And by the way, thank you very much for the link. And that goes right here to a guy by the name of Angelo John Gage. And in about 6.5 minutes, he summed up the corruption that actually begets a country that has a central bank. And I've talked about this before, too. I did a video about 1.5 years ago about what was going on in Venezuela. And then basically how socialism finished off Venezuela. But he does a good job of it here. And I wanted to give a shout out to him and his channel. I've liked the video and I've subscribed to his channel. He did a very good job summing it up very succinctly and in a very short period of time, which is something I have problems with. Okay, also a video that I did with the Talk Junkies. This is back in May 22. We talked about the central bank, the Federal Reserve, and how it corrupts everything, including education, science. Even science is corrupted by our central bank, dudes. We do not have real science anymore. We have special interest science, like global warming, and it can be debated, but evolution. I can bring up more points on science, too, where cheap, or not cheap, but actually zero-value currency coming off the presses can actually affect the science, whether or not science is real or not anymore. That's a big concept. But I'll tell you what, though, we'll talk about that soon. We have covered this before in the global warming videos we have done in the past. But at any rate, I do want to say that WTF happened in 1971.com was brought up by Conjecture. By the way, Conjecture joined us for this podcast. I'll link everything down below as always, gang. But the reason I bring that up is because there is demonstrable proof on paper of how bad things have gotten since we went off the gold standard in 1971. Once again, the central bank could just print as it pleased. And it really couldn't get away with that when we were on a gold standard. Well, it kind of did because we didn't audit our gold supply anymore. The last time our gold supply was audited was 1953. So I think my point was, in the last video, the main point is it really doesn't matter who you have in office anymore. The central bank runs things. What's the evidence? What's the proof of that, TC? That's a valid question. The evidence and the proof is banks never get prosecuted for their illicitly illegal actions. They're never prosecuted, certainly not in a public court. They always settle, and they settle for a tiny fraction of how much they were able to extort out of their shareholders, out of their customers, out of their investors, and out of the general markets. Guys, I can't put too fine a point on this. Trump, Biden, Obama, Bush, Clinton are all the same when it comes to banking. They all get away with murder. All the banks get away with murder, no matter who's in office. And that's where the corruption comes from, is the central bank. You guys see where I'm going with this? Until we get rid of the central bank, and I'm not talking about an absorbed situation where the Federal Reserve gets absorbed into the Treasury. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about obliterating the central banks and going back to countries actually printing their own currency. Now, that's not necessarily a good idea unless you do it right. But a hard gold or silver standard is the best way to go. That is absolutely the best way to go, but they will never let us go there. That was discussed in this Talk Junkies video. There's a very specific reason why we can't go back to a hard money standard. And that's because we can't afford to go to war anymore. We cannot afford to go to war anymore on a hard money standard. It is that simple, folks. It literally is that simple. And we want to be in constant, never-ending wars. Therefore, we cannot be on a hard currency standard. We cannot have honest money if we want to constantly go to war. Okay, let's go to our next article. Let me explain what happens next. The reader sums it up all very ominously. This is a great article. I did not, and I will not, read it all right now. I didn't read it all, but I did read the first part of it, and I know exactly where it's going. A very good article to read. I will link it down below. Here is one that I actually really piqued my interest. The astonishing lack of value in value. Guys, this is the kind of stuff we cover in Truth, Money, and Freedom, our Discord group. So I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going as quick as I can. Remember how I keep talking about how the stock market is fake? All those numbers are fake? Well, let me tell you how they come up with those numbers. And this is something that a lot of people really have never conceptualized before, don't truly understand. And that's adding value to intangibles like intellectual property. This one right here. B2B rights, which actually, honestly, I don't know what that is. Brand. I know exactly what brand means. I'm going to give you examples of this stuff in a second, guys. Hard intangibles like goodwill, data, non-revenue rights, or in other words, non-compete agreements, relationships, and public rights. Okay, gang, big concept here. I'm going to try and cover it in 2 minutes. Let's take a look at Tesla. I picked on Tesla 2 days ago when I did that video. And Tesla's shares, according to Michael Burry, the guy they made the movie The Big Short about, according to Michael Burry, Tesla is 18 times overvalued. That is not a small number, gang. You can't get a PE ratio, an honest PE ratio. And why is that? Because intellectual property. Apparently there's value in the intellectual property around Tesla. So that actually is how they account for some of the company's value. Brand, it's Tesla. So that has value in itself. Just by having the name Tesla, the reputation, it does actually increase the value of the company. It's just like Nike. You know, if you have the Nike swoosh on your shirt or on your shoes, you're going to pay more for it because it's Nike. It's the same thing with Tesla. Hard intangibles like goodwill. I'm going to skip over this one, but it is an interesting one, and go to data. Data mining. Accumulating data from anything from something that's scientific in the research and development department to pulling in data on their clients. In other words, data mining their clients. All of that data is supposedly worth money, right? Or worth currency. But how much is it worth? And once again, that's an intangible. You're not really sure how much it's worth, but companies do assign values to them, just like mark-to-market accounting. Okay, non-compete agreements. Tesla has that as well. Relationships, that's a big one right there. Tesla has relationships with the federal government and governments around the world, for that matter. So how much are those relationships worth? Well, a contract is a contract. If Tesla has a contract with the federal government to, provide, research and development on batteries they're creating, or sending satellites into space, or whatever they have contracts with, those contracts are worth money. That's not an intangible. That's actually revenue generation. But the relationship itself to the federal government, apparently all by itself, is worth money. So relationships with federal governments, other big businesses, mines for getting lithium out of the ground, the relationships with these companies and governments apparently is part of how they estimate what the value of the company is. And public rights. So now you guys understand what we're talking about here, how the market is fake. It's fake currency going into the companies and into the stock in the first place. That money is not real. But to make matters worse, they're valuing intangibles like intellectual property, giving it a number, and saying their company is worth that much more because of intellectual property rights. Copyrights, things of that nature. Same thing with relationships. Tesla says, hey, listen, our company is worth $400 billion more because we have relationships with the federal government, with mining concerns, with this scientific research company and that scientific. We've got exclusive contracts, non-compete agreements, for R&D with certain places to develop better batteries. So you guys are starting to get the bigger picture now. And I'm not trying to be really complicated. I'm trying to make this as simple as I can right now. But you guys now should have a better picture of how these companies are being so overvalued. And these are things that we didn't have to deal with in the past. You go back into the 80s, brand is the only thing here I can think of that actually gave value to a company. That was also intangible. So you had to judge as an investor what the brand was worth. Now you got all these other things that you need to worry about, what they're worth and whether or not the stock is worth it anymore based on these intangibles that they say give their company value. Okay. So that being covered, everything will be linked down below, like always. Going back to our banking thing, pardon me, you guys, I hope I have covered this in a way that you guys can understand easily and succinctly. And that is the central bank, no matter who's in power, the central bank and the big banks always get away with murder, criminality. The kind of stuff that we can't get away with. There's a different set of rules for the bankers. Trust me on this. This is how I see the two parties as inextricably linked. Is because they're controlled by the banksters. It's really that simple. They're controlled by other interests too. But when's the last time you heard about a defense contractor like Boeing, McDonnell Douglas, General Electric, actually going in front of hearings for, like, for instance, draining their pension fund, like happened at GE, like what's happening at Boeing. They don't get prosecuted for this. They don't even settle out of court. This monster, you guys might want to call it the system. There's a lot of other names we could call it. The beast system is literally who controls the politicians. And I think we all know this. The bankers literally have first dibs on all the politicians. They've got their hooks in them. And after that, you've got the military-industrial complex. After that, you've got oil and energy concerns. And after that, you've got the military-pharmaceutical complex. They have all got their hooks in these politicians. We can't control them. We cannot control politicians because they're being controlled by, quote-unquote, a higher power. So what does voting really matter? If they've all got their hooks in all these politicians, and once in a while you have an anomaly, for instance, like Ron Paul, and I will be the first one to concede. You do get your anomalies once in a while, but he was absolutely powerless. He couldn't get anything done. But he did serve a larger purpose, which is helping to wake up people to how insolvent the entire system is, how corrupt the system is. So he served a grander purpose, actually, than actually getting anything positive done. So kudos to Ron Paul for that. But at any rate, hopefully I've made my point real clear. I'd like to say again, thank you so much for watching Truth, Money, and Freedom. Thank you for all your comments. I know, because I have very little time, spare time. I don't get a chance to watch many YouTube channels, and so I really appreciate when people come in and watch ours. We are we do not advertise. We are not monetized on YouTube. Of course, I wouldn't do it anyway, but we're just trying to help folks. We're trying to help people see a different point of view on the bigger picture that's going on right now. We are volunteerists. I mean, we're libertarian and anarchists, actually, in our Truth, Money, and Freedom Discord. We do have links to donate cryptocurrencies in case we need a new piece of equipment or anything else of that nature, help pay for internet, that sort of thing. So, but that's totally up to the people. I don't talk about it very much, but it's in the description link. If you click down here, you'll see Donate to TMF Podcast, Bitcoin, DigiByte, EOS, Ethereum, Litecoin, and I should have Monero up there too. But at any rate, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover, and I am sorry I didn't get my point across very well yesterday. I was probably trying to go too fast through it, but that's the reason why voting on the federal level just doesn't seem to matter, and it includes the Supreme Court. I'm not saying we vote for Supreme Court members. I'm just saying that they're all corrupt to one degree or another. Now, Clarence Thomas is probably the least corrupt out of all the people that are currently on the court right now, and I tried to convey that yesterday. But at the same time, when Scalia died, the court died, in my mind. He was the one person that could actually sway the court to try and get something decided, keeping in the Constitution in mind, in context, and in focus. Since then, we've had none of that. It's really, really sad. So, okay, gang, that's all I have for now. You guys all have a wonderful day. May God bless each and every one of you.